Even though Firelands is quite a short raid, it's a really good raid. But it does have one common theme throughout. The items that come from the bosses is not consistent. And what I mean by this is if you've been putting preparation in already, looking at what items you're going to get, making out your BIS list and maybe even simming your character, you've probably noticed you can't actually get full heroic gear, depending on what class you are. And you might have also noticed that some classes can get 397 weapons, where others are stuck with 391 weapons, and this will actually make a big difference, especially if you're a speedrunning guild or something like that. The difference between having 397 weapons to 391 weapons could be big enough to want to bench those classes that can't get 397 weapons. Now, I'm not saying you're going to bench them all, but when they can't get the highest item level obtainable, especially in such an important slot like a weapon slot, it could be problematic. However, that isn't the one thing that needs to be changed. The upgrade system and crystallized firestones is, though. So firstly, back in original Firelands, Blizzard fixed one issue and then created another one altogether. The first issue they fixed was the fact that in the first phase of content, so through tier 11 raids, people that used relics were stuck with a 359 relic. We know certain classes had BIS trinkets that were 359 as well, but not ever being able to upgrade that relic slot, it kind of sucks a little bit. So they added crystallized firestones, and what these crystallized firestones do is upgrade certain items. Now, the original plan was to have these upgrade the reputation items that come from Avengers of Hyjal as well, and really that's the one thing I'd like to see changed. Because in all of Firelands, throughout all the bosses, there's only one single intellect cloak that drops. Now, this means every single caster, no matter whether you're a healer or a DPS, you are going to want this one cloak. Having that amount of people all fighting for one cloak kind of sucks. Another example would be for rogues or even feral druids. There is no 391 belt that drops from any boss in Firelands. However, when you get to Honoured with Avengers of Hyjal, everybody gets a 378 item level belt that you can just buy for gold. At Friendly, you're going to get a cloak that you can buy for gold. At Revered, you're going to get a trinket. And finally, at Exalted, you're going to get a ring, which is 391 eye level, so it's heroic item level, and it's got a socket in as well. Straight away, you probably see where I'm going with this. These items can't be upgraded. The only ones that can be upgraded with crystallized firestones, which I will come to how they should change in a second, is trash drops that come from the raid, which some of these trash drops you will definitely want to be upgrading, especially if you're something like a Frost Death Knight. And Frost DK is another prime example. Unless you're going to want to use dual-wield tank weapons, there's no 391 weapon for you outside of trash. So actually, as a Frost DK, the only way you're going to be able to use BIS weapons is going to be with 2 crystallized firestones. Now, going back to what I was saying about Rogue and Feral Druid, if you want your BIS belt, you're going to have to get the Trash Drop belt, which is BOE, so you would be able to buy it from the auction house, but you're going to need a crystallized firestone to upgrade the belt. Tanks will most likely want to upgrade the trinket. Every single caster or anyone that can use a relic slot is going to want to upgrade their relic slots. And there's just lots of examples of people that will actually want to get these crystallized firestones. So what are they? Well, like I said, they're used for upgrading trash items and certain items that come from the vendor for valor points, which is things like wands and relics. But they've got quite a low drop chance. You've got to remember there's only 7 bosses, and each boss has got something like a 10% chance of dropping one. And your raid team is going to want to get a lot of these. Almost to the point where I would say heroic bosses should just be guaranteed to drop one. Or if not guaranteed, at least very high, like a 50% chance at least for each boss on heroic difficulty to drop them. And that is because of the sheer amount that people are actually going to want, and the fact that then when you get these BOE trash drops from the raid, you won't feel bad wasting firestones on them for quick upgrades before the item that you actually want drops. One that you know if you've watched the channel for any length of time that I use as an example is Rancier of Hatred. If you're a Feral Druid, of course, ultimately you're going to want to get the Fire Kitty Star from Major Domo, but this would actually tide you over if crystallized firestones were plentiful. You wouldn't feel bad wasting one, because it wouldn't be a waste. It's going to be a good upgrade of a weapon. But if you're only seeing 1 or maybe 2 of these max per raid, and there's lots of people that they're actually BIS items that they're going to be upgrading to get these for, you're never going to actually get that option to even upgrade some of these items, which would be useful during progress. So the one change that I want to see from Blizzard really is 2 changes, but the Avengers of Hyjal gear absolutely should be on the Crystallized Firestones vendor. Now, if you look on WoW Sims or 80 upgrades or anything like that, or actually 60 upgrades, but 60 upgrades / cata, anyway, that doesn't matter, then you will see some of these items. You'll see the Avengers of Hydral gear being upgraded to 391, and that's because Blizzard did actually intend on doing it originally, but for whatever reason, it just never got finished off, much like a lot of stuff in Cataclysm, to be fair. So the items do exist in the database. But if you're planning out your gear and you're putting these items in there, bear in mind, without Blizzard actively making this change, you won't be able to use them. Well, you won't even be able to obtain them. Now, this would make a huge difference if both of these changes was put in side by side, because you'd have more Crystallized Firestones drop in. You'd also then be able to upgrade your reputation items, so all the casters are not fighting over one cloak that comes from a list resort, by the way. All the level wearers are not trying to get hold of a Crystallized Firestone that's maybe they're only seeing 1 or 2 a week of in their raid to try and get their best belt. And that is just a couple of examples. I know plate wearers have similar issues, and all of this would actually just help to keep certain classes relevant. And I'm not saying any class is going to be completely irrelevant in Firelands, because they won't be. But when you've got rogues that are going to be struggling to get their belt, and they're a class that has no access to 397 weapons, you've got Frost DKs that are not going to be able to get good weapons without getting 2 Crystallized Firestones. Otherwise, they've got to use Beftalak's tanking sword, which there's wasted stats on there, obviously. Also meaning that DKs have no access to 397 weapons. It's a really funky tier for loot, and something really needs to be done. Blizzard have been very hands-off with Cataclysm so far, which I think has led to a lot of people probably dropping off a little bit, especially over the last few weeks. We need to see some active, sensible changes being made in Firelands to make the few months that we're going to be in there, because remember, we're not going to be in Firelands that much in terms of time. It's only 7 bosses, and they're going to want to get these next 2 tiers out pretty quick, so we don't want it being a frustrating time trying to get certain items when really we just want to go in and have fun, clear it, lots of Firestones, lots of upgrading gear, so on and so forth. But Blizzard, seriously, you only have to look back at past comments during 4.2 where people are actually saying the true legendaries in Cataclysm is Crystallized Firestones. This is one positive thing that you can actually do to make people happy, and I think you really need to address it. But yeah, I know it was a quick one, and it might have seemed like more me moaning than anything else, but unless we talk about these things, nothing's going to change, is it? So if you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're wanting to get ready for MOP, consider joining the channel as a member. I'm doing weekly members-only MOP videos, but don't worry, you haven't got to join, because closer to, I'd say when Dragon Soul's out, that's when I'll start actually making them all public so everyone can see them. So whatever. And obviously plenty of War Within content as well. I'll see you on the next one.